Hey, this is Matt once again. What about another video? This is another paid request, this time for Jonathan, Lindsey. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any type of videos, topics, reactions, commentaries, reviews, re-reviews, what have you, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box under pretty much any of these videos. Those are the links. But this is for Bride of Re-Animator from 1990, which I liked the first Re-Animator. I wouldn't say it's a favorite of mine, like, oh, it's in my top 20 favorite horror films of the 80s. No, but I do like it. I do think it's the best of the three Re-Animator movies. Jeffrey Combs, Bruce Abbott do a good job, has a really nice score. I like the music. I know the music is a lot like Psycho to the point they got in deep shit about it, but I still like that motif. It does have some crazy moments in it. The third one, Beyond Re-Animator, I barely remember. I remember it seems like it didn't seem like much happened, or because of the cheaper budget, and sadly Bruce Abbott didn't come back, but Jeffrey Combs is in it, and I don't know. I don't remember. I just remember vague memories that wasn't as good as the first two. Now this one, I don't mind it. I don't love it, but I didn't mind it for what it was. Funny enough, the uncut version is on YouTube, for those who want to watch it. Before I get into it, the positives of the film is Jeffrey Combs coming back as Herbert West. He's a joy to watch as that character. Bruce Abbott, nice to see him come back. I think he's a decent actor. The effects are fun to watch. It's very gory, especially when you get to the third act and the Bride of Re-Animator herself and what happens to her. It's a really top-notch gore practical effects. And also these other type of creatures, Herbert West's experiments. Like you have this thing with the like fingers and an eyeball and it's moving around. That looked pretty cool, pretty neat effects. It was at least a decent time waster. I do think one of the big issues with the film is that a lot of times it felt like a rehash of the first movie, and the continuity is not as great as it could have and should have been. And there's differences, but I don't think it felt different enough compared to the first one. Now, what I mean by continuity is that, okay, this takes place 8 months after the first movie, and now, how is Jeffrey Combs alive? Last time we saw him, he was being pulled to his death by tentacles. How is he alive? How did he escape? What happened? You think there'd be a bit of investigation? How the hell were they able to leave, let alone go overseas and work in Peru? How did they get to Peru? And the Peru is only the beginning, and then they go back to the university. So it's like, oh, now we're back to the university. Now we're back to the same stuff. Now we're back to Herbert West, once again, of course, wanting body parts. Now we're back to Bruce Abbott helping him. Why is Bruce Abbott still helping him? Because he could argue that Herbert West is the reason why his girlfriend died. If it wasn't for you and your experiments, Meg would still be alive. And by the way, at the end of the first movie, didn't he inject Meg? So what happened with that? The only reference we get is something about I think a detective tells a girl that his girlfriend Meg was found dead in his arms. So are we led to believe that she attacked him and he had to kill her? And if that's the case, why the fuck would he keep working with Herbert West, let alone in Peru? Why the fuck, like, again, and how is Herbert West alive? And how the fuck did they find David Gale's head, like, in this other area? And there's a lot of questions, and they're not really that, they don't answer why Herbert West is alive and how that happened. There's a lot of unanswered questions. As okay, here's University again, Bruce Abbott helping Herbert West again, deal with like an animal that comes back to life. In this case, it's a dog. In the first one, I believe, was it a cat? It's been a while since I've seen the first one. Like I said, when it comes to 80s horror movies like that, I would say I've seen the Evil Dead films a lot more. I've seen like Day of the Dead a lot more. Return of the Living Dead, I would say I've seen more. Not because I dislike Re-Animator, just I've seen some of those other films a lot more. But I think it was a cat in the first one. Here's a dog. David Gale comes back. I don't think you needed David Gale in this. I don't think he really added anything to it. He really didn't. Like, other than popping up a bit at the end, he didn't really do much. And you could have easily cut him out. It's just, he's there because he was in the first movie. But don't have him in it. That way you could differentiate yourself from the first movie and feel more different. Other than the bride herself, it doesn't feel like there's much other difference compared to with this in the first one. And I think that's one of the issues I have with it. But yeah, in Peru, they're doing these experiments while this battle's going on. And the, I guess, new love interest of Bruce Abbott, especially for later on, I forget the actress's name. If you remember the first Austin Powers film, there was the character named A Lot of Vagina. That's her, and she is in this movie. But a battle happens. Jeffrey Combs helps Bruce Abbott out, and you could tell that they changed the music of the theme because, like I said, in the first movie, people thought it was too much like Psycho, and they got in deep shit. So they keep a similar theme, but the instruments are different, and sadly, though, it doesn't sound nearly as good. Sadly, the one that in the first movie that sounded more like Psycho sounded a lot better than the theme in this movie. It sounded very off because it was off. So yeah, they come back to the university, the hospital. Bruce Abbott is a doctor again. It would be weird that Jeffrey Combs and Bruce Abbott still get to work at this place when 8 months ago it was that massacre, and I just say, well, they were the only survivors. And do you think they would at least be like, no, don't work with us? You survived, but we don't know what happened, and you two are the only one that survived. And was there any foul play? Was there not? I don't know. We'll see. Just don't work here anymore. No. The bits between Jeffrey Combs and Bruce Abbott, they worked well together. That's why I think this is one of the things that hurt Beyond Re-Animators, that having Bruce Abbott, that guy that Jeffrey Combs could bounce off of. I think that really does help with the Herbert West character. And like I said, is Herbert West doing more experiments, like doing this hands with the eyeball and how to reanimate dead tissue. Bruce Abbott is helping. And then at one point he tries to quit, and Jeffrey Combs like, wait, remember Maid's heart. So I guess you say that's why he's still helping him, because Maid's heart, and it'll live again. So I just say, you just say that's. But so, well, what happened after Re-Animator 1? Did he kill Maid? What else happened? I guess you assume yes. Meanwhile, this other doctor finds David Gale, his head, and bring that back to life. And then later on, forces a doctor to give him bat wings so he can fly around. But I said, David Gale seems very minuscule in this movie that you could have cut him out and really would not have made much of a difference. You also have this lieutenant that's poking his nose around, snooping, which also leads, spoiler alert, to Herbert West killing him with this chemical that simulates a heart attack. Then they bring him back to life. And that just reminded me of the dad in the first movie. Like Maid's dad. Maeve's dad was stupid around. Boom, brought to life. Here, boom, brought back to life. So that's for me. It just felt like a very much of a rehash of the first. And you think, man, with this concept, I actually preferred the original concept, which was Bruce Abbott is called in to help the president, but you find out that the president is dead and Herbert West is there. And Bruce is like, oh my god, well, we've been hired to bring the president back to life. I actually would have liked that idea. That would have been really crazy and strange, and by this point, I mean, this film was made in, I think, 88, but it got delayed to like 1990. But 88, you know who the president was? Ronald Reagan. So I don't know if they would use Ronald Reagan. Maybe a nice take on Reaganomics or whatever. I mean, that would have been kind of with the 80s effects that you have in this movie, but then that crazy idea, and I'm not saying make it so political, but you could make fun a little bit of the politics. And I wish Stuart Gordon had come back to direct, because Brian Yuzna, I don't think, rest in peace Stuart Gordon, but I don't think Brian Yuzna as good of a director. I mean, I didn't mind, what was that one? Society. I didn't mind Society. But I do think Stuart Gordon he had a bit more a hand on the direction, and I liked, was it Dolls that Stuart Gordon did, and others. But he didn't come back to direct, Brian Yuzna did. And again, as this is going on, I'm kind of sitting there going, really the only thing keeping me enjoying this film is watching Jeffrey Combs having fun as Herbert West, the way he snaps his dialogue to people and condescending to people, like the detective. Oh yeah, well your wife came in, huh? And interesting, she has all these injuries. She fell. She fell, did she? And you get the idea that the lieutenant was an abuser. I mean, the way Jeffrey Combs attached some of that bits of dialogue is fun to see, and it makes it worth it. And so Bruce Abbott does the straightforward shtick fairly well. Like I said, they're a good team. I just wish the story was more imaginative, and again, not as much almost a remake of the first one. That's why, again, the bride stuff was the most interesting part of the movie. Because, you know, as it's going on, it's like, okay, kind of like the dad in the first one, here the lieutenant is a zombie, and instead of a cat, here's a dog, the one girl's dog brought back to life. Kathleen Kinmont is in the movie. She was with Lorenzo Lamas for a while, and she had done other stuff. I think she was in Jason Goes to Hell, I believe. And I could be wrong. She plays the woman that's going to be this patient who Bruce Abbott is taking care of. She dies, and Herbert West uses her body, her face, for this bride. And they have Maeve's heart. And when they bring her back, and the way Kathleen Kinmont plays it, and I wish there's a lot more of that. I wish less of David Gale just busting in with wings. Yeah, I was very like indifferent on it. And the ending, I kind of feels a bit like a clusterfuck, because now this brick wall opens and there's all these experiments that I'm still there going, well, why didn't Jeffrey Combs' character just kill all these experiments? Like, he's experimenting, but once he's done with it, why doesn't he shoot it in case something happens instead of breaking them all up, or whatever? I just to further study them. But they all come out of woodwork, and there's some nice makeup effects. Makeup effects jamboree in the finale. But it's like they're coming through, and David Gale's flying around, barely doing anything, and some people are grabbing Herbert West, and someone trying to grab Bruce Abbott and her, and then the girl from Peru. I think if it stepped more to the Bride of Re-Animator, and she got created earlier in the film, and then it's about her trying to be this person, but then killing people because they do Bruce Abbott wrong, or she wants to defend Bruce Abbott, and because she loves him, and then Bruce Abbott realizes this is wrong, and then she goes after the Peru lady and goes, "What are you doing? You're not Maid. Maid is dead." And then you get crazy. The best part of the movie is this person you feel sorry for going, "What do you want then?" It rips the heart out, and Bruce Abbott almost made me want to hate Bruce Abbott's character in a way, because it made me feel sorry for the bride. "You're not Maid, she's dead. You're a monster." And she screams, and then she falls apart. Really crazy good makeup effects. Definitely a showstopper of a scene. I just wish more of the movie was up to that level. And I like Jeffrey Combs' tissue rejection. That's his way of explaining what happened. And that's where like all this stuff is happening. Where all these other guys are coming in, and the detective zombie, and then his wife comes in, and all this stuff, and the pills are shaking, and Herbert West is baby dead again, but obviously not, because there's a third film he's in, and then Bruce Abbott and the Peru girl make it out, but then because like David Gale's bat thing is still alive. Why? But he's trapped. It just felt like a messy conclusion. So, I guess what I'm saying is, I wouldn't say I'm a big fan of the sequel. It's okay because of Jeffrey Combs and Bruce Abbott's performances, because of the top-notch makeup effects. It didn't feel too long of a movie. The stuff with the bride I thought was an interesting idea. I definitely thought that was the strongest part of the finale. It's just, I do think it has a lot of problems compared to the first. Again, I wish there was more differences compared to the first. I wish it wasn't as much of a rehash. I wish they didn't drop a lot of stuff that was built up at the end of the first. Like, nah, don't worry about it. Yeah, Herbert West is alive. We're not going to explain. Yeah, Barbara Crampton, I guess, didn't come back because I think her agent said, don't bother coming back because it's just a little cameo. And, all that jazz. But that's the thing, if you're going to do the bride stuff, don't have it be a cameo. Have her come back and see what Barbara Crampton can do as this zombie version of Maid, and is either defending Bruce Abbott or, like, that's not what they wanted to do, though. Like, too much to just remind me of the first one, redone. I said that David Gale, that character, did not need to be in this. Like I say, he pops every once in a while, and then at the end he's flying around with bats. It's like, there's not really much to his character in this. He's not really the main bad guy in this. I just used to say, he leads the lieutenant there, and that causes the other people to come through the brick wall to attack Herbert West, I guess. But if that's the case, you could just let this lieutenant be the one to do it, and not David Gale. Or have it be the bride. The bride goes crazy, and she unleashes the wall, and that's where the things come in. Let the bride be the villain. It's called Bride of fucking Re-Animator. Let that be the case. Let her be the villain. So like I said, I do have a lot of issues with it, but it didn't make me that mad or angry. I didn't mind as a time waster. Like I said, really good makeup effects showcase. Herbert West, still a joy to watch Jeffrey Combs in that role. I think at one point there's talks of not getting him because he was busy doing another film. I think it was the Pin. Was it the Pin, the Pendulum? I forget what it is, but if he wasn't in this, would have been a detriment. But at least have some kind of explanation. Like even a quick shot, like the tentacles come in, you see him like fighting off with a scalpel or something. He's fighting all this stuff. He comes in, he says like a cool line, and it's raining. And then that could be the opening scene, and then credits. But whatever. Either way, it is what it is. It's not a film I would rewatch much, but I've seen better sequels. I've seen worse sequels. With that said, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.